Welcome to the PostalMate webinar, big holiday webinar 2022. My name is Karen Grant and I'll be your instructor today. I'm already having technical difficulties. Give me one moment to catch up here. It's always hard. We're going to go through a lot of just stuff you need to know or be reminded of first, and then we'll be getting into heavier and heavier stuff as it goes forward. So some of these things you're familiar with, some of them you knew in the past but need to be reminded, and that's what we're going to focus on right away. First of all, that horrible oversized giant surcharge. If you have a really big parcel, make sure that you measure it really carefully. If you get rates in PostalMate, then you're allowed to ship it, okay? If you don't get rates in PostalMate, don't fudge on the size, okay? The surcharge for that is right around, give or take, because it's dependent on the fuel surcharge, $1,200. $1,200. There's no insurance available even if you paid for it, and if they lose it, too bad. There's no claim, so or damage it. So make sure that you're very careful on that. Again, PostalMate will not give you rates if the box is too large. I highly recommend when you have an extremely large box that you actually take a video with a cell phone or a picture of yourself measuring each dimension, so that if later you got hit with that 1,200, you can say, nah, here's the 3 pictures showing each direction and where the tape measure landed. I got you, carrier. So cover yourself. Every single year, towards the end of December or early January, I get a crying store or two that says they got hit with this surcharge. And it's because they either didn't measure well enough, didn't round up, or the package changed shape a little bit during transit, and that can happen. So make sure that you give yourself plenty of rounding up in there. There we go. Order your supplies now, guys. Your 4x6 labels, your receipt paper, you know the drill. All this stuff you need to order. And the most important of that is those 4x6 labels. If you don't have 4x6 labels, you can't ship in PostalMate. It's just a fact. The language that the labels are written in, and mind you, we don't do that. It comes from the carrier that way, only will print on the 4x6. It prints out as gibberish on any other printer. So gibberish won't get your package there. So make sure you stock up on those. I know the carriers are horribly, horribly stingy with them. The carriers give them to you for free. If you're not aware, if you're a newer store and you maybe have been buying them or looking at them, the carriers give them to you for free. They must be the 4x6 labels with no extra tab. There's like, I want to say 5 different sizes, so make sure you get the right one. They will send you a case if they like you. Usually they'll try to send you 1 or 2 rolls. So it kind of depends. If you call them and you say, look, I'm an authorized shipping center or whatever your status is with that carrier, and we have tons of we have 100 drop-offs a day, we have 50 packages a day going out, I'll go through a roll a week or a roll in 3 days or whatever, I need a case. Make your case for it and try to get those. And if you are multi-carrier in your store, don't stop with one carrier. Always go to the next carrier and get some from them too. I don't know that DHL gives them away, but I know that UPS and FedEx do. Always have a stash of them in a cupboard, hidden away, that you almost forget about until you need them, okay? Because every year again, I have stores that call and say, well, I don't have any more labels, I ran out, what do I do now? Prepare better. I don't have an answer for that. So make sure that you get your supplies ordered. It has happened in the past, and it's been a while ago, but it has happened in the past that your local box supplier has run out of your favorite boxes, or heaven forbid, peanuts. And I have been through a Christmas twice where my local box suppliers ran out of peanuts. So make sure that you're well stocked up. Okay. Things that cause slowness in your computers. This is kind of a checklist of things. I want you to kind of review it. Old cables are one that we don't often think of. The cables that go from computer to computer, computer to the internet type things, those actually have a maximum amount of internet that they will allow through them. Now, I know what it's like behind your computers. It's really, really dusty, like Sahara Desert dusty. And it's really full of spider webs and gross things and dust bunnies. And it's a jungle of vines called cords, and you're afraid to go back there because if you wiggle something, you're going to undo something and the whole system's not going to work. I understand that. But those cables, if you've been afraid to change them out and it's been a number of years, they will throttle the amount of internet. So you could have great internet from your ISP and it not get to your computer. So make sure that you have good internet between stations here. And between to the internet. Make sure that you're plugged into Ethernet. If you're using Wi-Fi in your store, you're going to have very, very poor internet service. You could be paying for excellent, and maybe one station gets excellent, but it varies with the connections, and the connection from one computer to the next is at risk with the Wi-Fi environment. So we highly recommend Ethernet. And then make sure you reboot your computers on a regular basis, especially during the holidays, every other day at minimum. I recommend every day, but every other day, reboot those computers. Okay, and if you stream music in your store, don't do it from your master workstation, guys. Do it from an auxiliary, okay? Your master workstation already is working hard enough. Okay, Christmas computers. You know, we all have those computers hidden in the back cupboard. We only bring them out for the holidays, and you need to clean them all up. They've got last year's version of PostalMate on them. You're probably going to need to uninstall that and then reinstall the latest version. Fortunately, there's instructions on our website in the Help Center, so just type in the Help Center, uninstall, and you'll get the instructions for that. And then you can download PostalMate from our website. You do have to sign into the website, but you can download it right from there. And then you'll have to set up the printer drivers and things, and our support team is happy to help you set those up and get the right printer drivers and get that station all set up. Please be sure that this station is, again, plugged in by Ethernet cord, not Wi-Fi, and that it's a current, it can't be Windows 7, it must be Windows 10 or 11. And we'll be happy to get that set up. Bear in mind that if you haven't already done that, getting some time with our support team is going to be really difficult. We have well over 3,000 stores, and unfortunately, I would say half of them bring out an extra computer at Christmas time. Each one of those calls to our support team is 20 to 30 minutes long on average to get all the printers hooked up. Sometimes they need help installing, sometimes they need help uninstalling. Maybe there's an antivirus issue, so they take a bit of time. So between the moment when we start the ticket, which is a few moments before we call you, and when we end the ticket, which is several moments after we hang up and enter our notes, you can expect it'll take anywhere between 20 minutes and 30 minutes or so. And when you add that up times 1,500, you can see that we are really going to be swamped. So that's why we get really busy. And here's the problem. We have to have some employees, some support workers that are dedicated to taking other calls. The kinds of calls like, oh, I have a customer here and I'm trying to ship international and I can't get a label. That's important. Your auxiliary station is also important, but not as important as that customer standing in front of somebody else. So we will get to you. Just bear in mind that is why we get busy at this time of year. Okay. But remember, if somebody does sleep there or can sleep there, it's a residence, and the verify address, if it comes back and says it's commercial, it may be lying to you. And what that means is, especially for you newbies, and we have a ton of newbies, we've had a ton of news, we have grown immensely over the last year, and we've had a lot of resale stores. So I have probably 20% of you right now are brand new to our industry. The verify address comes from Indicia, which checks on post office information. UPS and FedEx, and DHL for that matter, but UPS and FedEx may not agree with the post office on these things. And so the criteria for UPS and FedEx is subjective. In other words, they don't write it down anywhere, what they exactly consider a residence, which makes it really hard for me to teach you. So I've come down to the conclusion that if somebody does sleep there or can sleep there, it's a residence. And if there's ever a question, call it a residence, okay? So there is no way to check with each carrier on that at this time. If your printers are not working, common reasons your printers don't work, and I'll bet you almost everybody on this call or in this webinar, has had in the last 6 months, their printers stop working for some reason, go offline, who knows what happened. And that is almost always caused from a Windows update. And it's a known issue. If you update, if you go and Google Windows update printer issue, it'll all start flying in and you'll see things. And what Windows updates tend to do is Windows really wants to lock on to the last printer you used and make that your default printer. And your default printer always has to be your report printer, the 8.5 by 11. And remember, in a normal office environment, a typical computer uses one printer. We have the receipt printer, the label printer, the Dymo printer, the report printer, and then we have some other things that act as printers, like touchpad or signature pads and stuff. So it's really crazy on printers. So that's usually the reason, but it could be other things. Let's see here. Additional handling package. This is the most important screen in PostalMate, this packaging and dimensions screen. This screen you need to be really, really conscientious of. If your system is set up to bypass this screen, I highly recommend turning this screen on through the holidays at least, and making you and your employees address the screen for every single shipment. This is where, when stores, quote, lose money because they didn't charge enough, almost always it's because they didn't do something on this screen. They either didn't enter the dimensions properly, or they didn't check carrier branded packaging when they use that, or they didn't do check mark either article not in standard container or padded envelope or soft pack. So let's talk about that real quickly. Article not in standard container is very simple. If it's not in a typical bag or box, then it needs to be check marked. So that means anything that's round, like a tube, a bucket, a pail, any wooden crate, metal toolbox, suitcase, you get the drill. Anything that's not a typical, or a cardboard box that is a misshapen cardboard box. So for example, I've seen, and you maybe too have, cardboard boxes for a guitar that are actually shaped like a guitar. That's not a standard container, folks. That is a weird container, and so you would check mark this. Padded envelope or soft pack. That is exactly what it means. It's typically a padded envelope, what we call a padded envelope, and it's checking UPS and FedEx both. The larger sizes can have an additional handling surcharge. These additional handling surcharges are not cheap. The cost to you is between $14 and $18, I think, maybe even $20, plus fuel surcharge on many of them. So you need to make sure and check mark these so that PostalMate can check for these surcharges. We don't want you getting, I mean, if you get hit with a $16 surcharge you didn't expect, it probably wiped out your profit. And that's not a good thing. If you do not have the padded envelope or soft pack, it's because you probably have the wrong tier level selected for your post office carrier settings. So you need to go in and set that to either EPP, Indicia Preferred, or RS Associates, or RS Preferred, or RS Rates, or whatever it is, RS. So one of those two to get that. Is a polybag considered a soft pack? Boy, that's a good question. And that question came up last year as well. I will just share with you that especially for the post office, polybags sometimes are, it's really, I'm just gonna say yes. I would consider a polybag a soft pack in that case. I think they're fairly standard, but I would say they're a soft pack. They can have some weird charges with the post office because some post offices accept them like a manila envelope, and some post offices consider them something different. So there is not consistent. There's supposed to be always consistency in the post office. This is an area that's gray that I do not see consistency in. Okay. This, I know the screen's cluttered, and I'm sorry, but this is about money back guarantees. And bear in mind that all the carriers suspend money back guarantees for the holidays for most services, not all services. But the air services, next day, second day, 3 day, especially next day and second day, the guarantees on that can change the closer it gets to Christmas. I have seen a carrier who shall remain nameless, but a big one, change 5 days before Christmas their policy without notice. So I chose not to quote any of them in this webinar because I need you to continually check with the carrier website on what these guarantees are. You can create, and I highly recommend that on your shipping disclaimer in CashMate, that you type in that time and transits quoted above are estimates only. Just cover yourself. You will have that customer that comes in and says, you said it would be there on Wednesday and it didn't get there till Thursday, and they left to go out of town on a trip and didn't get their package and it froze in the snow, and you will have that. So make sure that you always cover yourself with your disclaimers, please. Money back guarantees for Priority Mail Express. This is important with the post office. This is a post office service. Your Priority Mail Express, your local post office, has a cutoff time for Priority Mail Express. Typically it's 1 p.m. or 3 p.m., but I've seen it earlier and I've seen it later. So you have to check. Your Priority Mail Express has to be inside that post office and counted prior to that cutoff time in order for it to be delivered the next day. If you hand it to your carrier, that does not count. He often doesn't get there till 5 or 6 in the evening, and it's too late. So if you sell Priority Mail Express through post office, it is incumbent upon you to make sure that it is inside your post office and counted prior to the cutoff time of your local post office. Clearly, the reason we cannot include those times in PostalMate is because every one of you will have a different time at your local post office, and that's subject to change and not available through any technology provided by the post office. So make sure that you check that out before you sell that service. Otherwise, sell it as a 2-day service. It's a 2-day service. It could get there tomorrow type thing, okay? International transit times and PostalMates, and this is not new, this is old, but this is really important. Every international transit time in PostalMate is for documents. So if it says it's going to get to Berlin, Germany on Friday, the 15th or whatever that date is, that's for documents, even though you're entering a 16 cube box. Packages are always longer. We can't, PostMate through technology with the carrier servers can only receive 1 time in transit for a destination. So we choose the documents one, which is quicker. Make sure that you are always quoting, okay, it says it's gonna get there Wednesday, but because this is a package, it's pending customs, I would expect it a day or 2 after that. Again, use your shipping disclaimer and on your receipt to type this information. Okay. Nikki, I want to come back to that. Remind me to come back to that. Okay, your busy days for December. Everybody wants to know, okay, what days will I be busy? And especially those of you who are newer in the industry, let me just share with you that the week after Thanksgiving is a little bit busier, but not terribly usually. Unless you live in an area where people get out really early, and that's typically a snowbird community. So I'm in Arizona, and I would have snowbirds start coming in mid-November to ship things. We're always on top of things. And but most people don't start shipping until after that. And mind you, the first week or 2 of December, everybody's busy buying things. They aren't around to shipping things yet. Okay, and so that's why we don't see that immediate uptick like the retailers do. So the busier your local retailers are, the busier you will be, basically. But you're going to be a week delayed. The busiest days, there's really 8 days that will be your busiest this year, is my prediction, and that is from Saturday the 10th through the 20th. Okay, Monday the 12th and Tuesday the 13th should be your busiest 2 days, followed closely by Monday the 19th. This is assuming that you're closed on Sundays. Folks, for those of you who are wondering, should I open on Sundays? Should I not open on Sundays? I think it's up to you. If you're okay opening on Sundays and you want to do that, you can. I will tell you, I don't think any store really loses business by not being open on Sunday. That tends to just fall to Monday. Now, should you have extended hours? I highly recommend it, extended hours, particularly for these 10-day or 8 days, busy days. An hour later and an hour earlier is always a really good thing, so they can get to you before or after work on their way home or to. If you are open on, and I think most of us are open on Saturdays, you should extend your Saturday hours. If you're typically only open, 2 to 5 hours, make sure that you're open 6 to 8 hours at least on Saturday, and make sure you let people know that, hey, a slow time to come in would be Saturday during blah, 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 maybe a time that you're not typically open. You can expect that to be a little bit quieter and people won't have to stand in line as much. For staffing, there's, oops, I missed it. There's this wonderful report. Hold on. I want this to come up. It didn't come. Okay. There is a wonderful report in PostalMate called the Time Activity Report. And that time activity report will actually tell you what hours last year you were the busiest during each time. So you run it for like 15 days in December of last year, and it breaks down your sales by hour. So you can see how busy you were each hour of each day last year. For you brand new stores, it doesn't help you much, but for you stores that were open last December, that kind of is a gauge. I will tell you that these 10 days, if you take your November sales and multiply them by 2, so let's say your December sales were $10,000, and you multiply it by 2, you're shipping, just shipping. That should be about what you sell in these 10 days of December. Your whole December usually is about 2.5 times your November. Now that's going to fluctuate greatly. If you're in a more industrial business area, it's completely different than if you're in a heavy residential area, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying, on average, with all 30-something hundred stores, typically December is 2.5 times November. That report again is the Time Activity Report in Cashmate. Time activity, it's a magic report. I will recommend not overstaffing this holiday season. I do anticipate that this Christmas will not be as big as the last 2 Christmases, and I'm sorry to say that. But with the economy the way it is, I think that a lot of people are, I don't think they're necessarily affected now. I think they're anticipating that they're going to be affected and they're nervous about it. They're going to be spending a little bit less and shipping a little bit less, I think. So please make the most of what does come in. Pay your current employees overtime to work some overtime hours. You're going to be working 80-hour weeks. That's what you signed up for when you got into this business. Deal with it. It is just what it is, and you're going to be so tired at the end. Make sure you order in pizza for your staff or Subway or whatever for your staff regularly. Take care of your drivers, folks. Always have drinks and snacks available for your drivers, that they can really bail you out of trouble during the holidays. And so make sure that you always tape up your boxes well. Remember, strings are no longer allowed on boxes. Paper on the outside of boxes can be considered additional handling. So, you can tell your customer, I can leave this paper on, but I have to charge you an additional handling fee, and it's like 16 bucks, or I can remove the paper. And their next comment will be, but there's writing all over the box. Well, as long as that box isn't like a hazmat box or something that's not allowed, it's fine that there's writing on the box. Now, if the writing on the box happens to be what the gift is, you can say, well, I can rebox it, and that'll cost you $7 instead of 16 bucks. They'll probably go for that. So, okay. Sorry. This one I'm not 100% sure about, but I wanted to make you aware. The last 2 years, UPS and FedEx did what's called account caps. And what that is, with their biggest accounts, and you are not them, with their biggest accounts, they would only allow a certain number of packages to be picked up each day as it got closer to Christmas. So let's just pick on Costco, my favorite store in the world. And let's say that their account cap, or they had 10,000 packages today to ship out. But their account caps came in, and maybe they are only allowed to pick up 7,000 of them. Well, what does UPS do with that 3,000? Well, they hold them over for the next day, or not UPS, Costco. They hold them over for the next day. Next day comes, they have 10,000 more. Now they have 13,000. The carrier comes and can only pick up 7,000. So now they have a whole bunch of packages. What ends up happening in the past couple of years is that those packages end up in the mail stream because Costco has to get those packages out. And folks, the only carrier in the United States that is not allowed to turn away packages is the post office. So that's what I'm telling you, is that if account caps happen, you will see the closer we get to Christmas, the more there's a problem at the post office with packages getting delivered on time because they are getting overwhelmed from these larger accounts. So the good news and bad news on this is, the bad news is we know you don't get as good a rates as Costco does on their shipping. They get better rates than you. The good news is, because we don't have those super discounted rates with the carriers, we're not included in this account cap. So they won't stop picking up from us or say that, hey, I can only pick up 50 packages from you today. That's not going to happen. So we are not included in these possible account caps. But you need to be aware that as we get closer to the holidays, it is possible that the post office could get overwhelmed with packages due to these account caps. So, and they may not happen this year, but they have in the last 2 years. So just be aware of that. Should you increase your pricing? I'm going to highly recommend you consider increasing your pricing. Increasing your pricing is not as easy as it used to be in PostalMate for the holidays. We used to have this kind of magic way to increase pricing just for the holidays. You old timers know what it is. I'll bring that up here. I hope that I have a little thing. But for non-ground services, so 3 days, second day, next day, any air services, you can add an additional handling over here, okay? Typically, we advise you not to mess with this area, but if you were to add like 5% over there, that would increase your air services by all those carriers by 5%. After the holidays, you can go back and remove that 5% back to 0 or back to whatever it was before you added 5%. It's possible you already have a number in there. That's okay. Leave that. So let's say you have a number that's 3. So add 5 to that, make it 8, right? And then after the holidays, you can take that 5 back out and go back to 3. Why do you want to do that? Well, because after the holidays, the rates are increasing anyway. We know that. That's when all the carriers do their annual rate increase. So that's one way to do it. But with ground, which is the bulk of our holiday shipping, you do have to go into the global rate setting and reset that. So if you're currently set at 52% retail over wholesale, maybe you want to increase that to 57% retail over wholesale. There's a great video on our website, how do I check my rates? And there's also one, how do I set my rates? And they're very, very short. They're not like these long webinars, guys. These are like 3-minute videos. So make sure you go and check that out if you need a reminder on that. Okay. Let's go through. We're going to do some international recaps so that you're refreshed for the holidays, because you will get some international packages in. And folks, international packages, it's like they only wait for you when you're busy in your store to come in. So you're always scrambling when they're in there. So China and Hong Kong, shipping technology type items is restricted to those countries. That would be like cell phones, laptops, anything that basically has a computer chip in it. Be very careful about going to China. Also on the description line, if you're sending something like new cotton men's shirt, you're going to put parentheses EAR99 parenthesis end parenthesis. That means that it is not on the CCL. The CCL is the Controlled Commerce List that lists all the technology items that are not allowed into China and Hong Kong. How do you know it's not? Well, if it's a men's shirt, you know it's not because it's not technology. If you think it might be, don't ship it. Just save yourself some time and don't ship it. It's just safer that way than to have an argument later. Customs description. This is a really big deal, and you will start seeing some errors. The carriers are starting to feed back errors on this. When you are typing in the description in PostalMate, always use 3 words or more to describe it. 2 will do usually, but sometimes even 2 will fail. 3 has never failed. So if it's a hat, new baseball hat, okay? those kinds of things. Make sure that you use 3 descriptive words for every single item. And then, of course, if this was going to China, then you'd have to put EAR99 in parentheses after HAP on that, okay? So always, always use at least 3 words in the description. Harmonized codes, this is a reminder, are only required to the EU and Norway and Switzerland. I know that there's a pop-up in PostalMate, no matter where you're sending, Brazil, South Africa, Japan, you still get that pop-up that says, hey, harmonized codes might be required. Do you want to continue? Yes, you do not, you can, but you do not have to enter the harmonized code for any country outside of the EU plus Norway plus Switzerland at this time, okay? So if you're in a hurry during the holidays, know that. Make yourself a list and have it on your wall there so you can quickly check it so you know if that country is in the EU or is Norway or is Switzerland. United Kingdom, all United Kingdom needs to now say United Kingdom as the country. That needs to be what you select. It used to be that you could select England or Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. No longer can you do that. Some of you will ask, well, why is it still in PostalMate? The reason it's still in PostalMate is because you have addresses in your database currently that have England, Northern Ireland, Wales, or Scotland. It would screw up that whole thing if we removed it. So that's why it's still there. It is, by the way, the post office that is restrictive on this, but the other carriers are starting to fall in line, I think. International red flags, things that you ought not to ship, folks. And I'm just going to go through this really quickly, but the first one is my favorite one. Anything you put in your mouth. Supplements, vitamins, food, snacks, candy, ice cream, no, not ice cream, but you get the idea. If it goes in your mouth, it likely could end up in quarantine. So please, please be careful about what you're shipping. And then if you're not sure, look it up. Also, the very last line on this, when I talk about international and what the value is of things, I say don't lie too much. And the reason I say too much is because there's always some fudging that goes on. And I always give this wildly crazy example because it's very evident to you what I'm talking about. If you buy a pair of blue jeans at Walmart, it's going to cost you probably 35 bucks. If you go down to Neiman Marcus and buy a pair of blue jeans, it's probably going to cost you 200 bucks. If you put 50 bucks or 25 bucks or 35 bucks for that pair of jeans, it's going to get through customs, okay? Even if you bought it at Neiman Marcus. They don't really care. It's a pair of blue jeans. That's subjective, okay? They don't know if that Neiman Marcus purchase at 200, maybe you got it at, what's their last call? Is that, I think that's their outlet store, and might have gotten it for $35. So they don't know. So having that truth there. But if you have a $3,000 new fancy gaming laptop and you're trying to tell customs it's worth 100 bucks, that ain't gonna fly. They're gonna get mad at you. They're gonna impose every single duty and tax they can, and probably some made up ones along the way. And bear in mind that duties and taxes are designated by the hosting country, the receiving country. And I always used to say that it depends on how the guy or gal that's doing the work is feeling that day, or maybe they don't like Americans, which is common, or maybe they had a bad night last night and didn't get enough sleep, or had a fight with their spouse. All those things actually factor into it. And I had a great example just a couple months ago. I did a webinar, and one of you wrote in and let me know that he sent identical packages to Canada, 2 different addresses, absolutely identical. One got through with no duties and taxes. The other one had several $100s in duties and taxes. Same thing, guys. It should have not been different, but it was. That's what we face when we're talking about the duties and taxes. Okay. International return address will always be your customer. So when you're entering, you should not select your store. It should always be your customer as the return address. It is required that that address also match what's written on the customs form. And if there's anything bad in that package, the officials are going to come after whoever is the return address on that, okay? If you put your store, you're liable. That's all there is to it. If there's something bad in it, you're liable. So don't choose your store there's very few reasons to ever choose your store as the return address. If it's your mom, you can choose your store. How's that? Okay. Carriers can bill your store duties and taxes if the sender or receiver doesn't pay. So here's kind of the rule on that. Duties and taxes are collected from the receiver. But what if the receiver says, I don't want to pay it? Well, the carrier can still leave the package with that person. I know that seems counterproductive, but what's the carrier going to do with the package? You know, they don't want it. So they can still leave it. The duties and taxes are still due. So they're going to look up and they're going to say, okay, the sender was John Doe at 123 East Main Street. They're going to go to that person, hopefully not your store, go to that person and say, okay, you owe us for duties and taxes. Now, hopefully they will pay. They're the second person they go to. If that person chooses not to pay, the carrier can come to your store and ask you to pay the duties and taxes. I have seen this happen a few times. Usually you can get it waived. Sometimes you can't and have to pay it, so just be aware of that. And I will just share with you, I hate to do this and point fingers at any carriers, but you know what? I always let the carriers, if they want to stand up and be the good guys, they can be the good guys. So the least likely to back bill you is DHL. I don't think I've ever seen them back bill a store for duties and taxes. UPS is pretty darn good about it too. FedEx, I have seen them back bill the store. I've usually seen it get waived, but I want you to be aware that it happens most often with FedEx. I've never seen it happen with post office. I don't think the post office has a way of ever coming back on you legally. They can go to the sender, they can go to the receiver, but that's it on that. Okay. And then when you're sending DHL, this is the most common DHL error that we get, and it's always the product P or X cannot deliver to the product P or X, something like that. And what it's saying is that we can't get the package from this place to this place. And you're going, wait, it's a good address and they pick up from me. What's the problem? The problem is actually your customer's return address. Let's say I live in the Phoenix area of Arizona, okay? But DHL doesn't service all points in my state. We have a little town in Arizona called Santa Claus, Arizona. My guess is DHL doesn't service Santa Claus, Arizona. But if somebody were visiting my store in the Phoenix area from Santa Claus, Arizona, and I typed in his address, his return address is Santa Claus, Arizona, I would probably get a DHL error and saying that the product P and can't deliver to the product P, blah, blah, blah. And that's because of that. That's the time when you need to change the return address of your customer. Now, you could put your store, but remember, I recommended against it. And so what you're going to tell your customer is, it looks like DHL does not service where you live. And if that package was ever needed to be returned, they couldn't return it to you. So they won't accept it for shipping because they can't ever return it to you if there's a problem. So do you have a friend or relative in the city here that you could give me their address for that I could use as a return address just in case? And usually they will have a friend or relative, and it doesn't even have to be in your city. It could be in New York City. I don't care where, as long as it's serviced by DHL and they're okay with it, you can use that return address. Okay. Whew. And I do see your questions coming in. We will get to your questions. This one is a biggie. Verify with carrier. And all of you have seen it because it happens. And verify with carrier will come up on your rate comparison screen with the different carriers. And it can happen. I'm going to go back here. I want you to notice that I made a screen here where it happens with all the carriers, except for post office, of course, with all the carriers, because it can happen with all the carriers. You might say, oh, well, I've only seen it with such and such carrier. Well, it can happen with all the carriers. So verify with carrier means exactly that. In fact, let's talk about what it means. It means that the carrier did not recognize the address you typed in. Their servers didn't. And you can say, well, I know it's a good address. I've shipped there before. Maybe you have. Maybe this carrier will give you a label. Maybe they won't. Maybe you shipped with a different carrier. But at this particular time with this particular carrier, their carrier servers do not recognize. We don't have to give you that message. That comes from the carriers. Okay. Also, it means that PostalMate couldn't check for an out of area or extended area surcharge. That's for UPS and FedEx only, but it's a huge surcharge, guys. So if it's out in the country, let's say in northern Scotland or something, it will have an extended area or out of area surcharge, and it's a hefty charge. It's like, I want to say it's $45. It's a big one. So if PostalMate can't check, if the carrier doesn't recognize where the package is going, then clearly we can't check for an out of area surcharge either. So you're going to have to manually check for that if you want to continue. And if you do continue, the carrier may or may not give a label. Now, you may have to work with the address, and each of the carriers has some specific things they need for the address. The pickiest carrier of all for international shipping addresses happens to be DHL. I love DHL, but I hate their servers sometimes. There is a website you can go to. It's called, I'm going to mess this up. It's at either dhl.dct.com. I think that's what it is. Or I got those reversed. DCT, by the way. It's DHL Capability Tool, I think is what it's called. Anyway, and that helps you to find the address or find what they're looking for. Sometimes there's a region, I'm going to say, and they actually want that region, DHL does, on address line 2. So make sure that your first name always has more than one letter in it, and you can't have a middle initial ever. So like John D. Smith, no, get rid of the D. I know that he's a soldier and it's an API, you can't have the D. So always have full names, at least 2 letters for each name, and make sure that the address is actually on address line 1. Sometimes we describe the address on address line 1 and put the actual address on address line 2. That will not fly. The actual address needs to go on line 1, and then the additional part of the address on line 2 if you need it. Also, Google can be your friend. We had a package yesterday, and I don't mean to pick on anybody, but it was going to the Philippines, and it was going to Cebu City. And maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. But anyway, they tried to put just Cebu, and can't do that. It has to be Cebu City. That would be like saying Salt Lake instead of Salt Lake City, or Carson instead of Carson City. City is actually part of the name, so be aware of things like that. Here comes IPS. So many of you don't know what IPS is, and many of you already have accounts with IPS, and many of you read the update guide and are excited about this. This is a new carrier. So this is the 8th carrier in PostalMate. IPS stands for International Package Shipping. It is a new international package service for you. It does not go to all addresses in the world. They are primarily in Europe and the Philippines. And let me just say that from what I understand, I've been told, they are very heavy in the Philippines. The Philippines, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to try to ship to one of the remote islands in the Philippines, but it's a group of, I don't know if it's hundreds, but a lot of islands. And some of those are extremely remote, like have 25 people on the island. And they don't even have post office service to those. I mean, it's crazy trying to get something to them. Well, apparently this IPS can get to all of them, which is really, really cool. It's a consolidation service. So it's really, you talk about slow boat to China, they have slow boat to China, but not to China, to the Philippines. They have 2 services. They have an air service and they have an ocean service. You will need to use our link to create the account in the update guide. Make sure you follow that update guide. UPS will pick up the package from your store. I know that sounds really weird, but they have a contract with UPS to pick up the package from your store. Now here's where it gets really, really interesting. The time in transits quoted on your screen are from their hub to the destination, not from your store to the destination. That's a really big deal, and here's why. I'm in Arizona, as I said. Their 2 hubs are New Jersey and Los Angeles. Los Angeles goes to the Philippines. Everything going to the Philippines goes through their Los Angeles hub. Everything going to Europe, as I understand, I think goes through their New Jersey hub. For me to get something from Arizona to New Jersey through UPS ground is 5 business days. So I have to add basically a week to whatever is quoted on the screen. There was no way, we get that information directly from the carriers and provide it to you. There's no way for us to add those extra days. So this is something you're gonna have to know, and you're gonna have to teach your staff. Maybe you can create a disclaimer. There is a shipping disclaimer, but there is also a department disclaimer. So if you create a department in CashMate for IPS, you can have a disclaimer on that that will only appear for IPS shipping, okay? And that's where you can say times in transit are from the carrier hub to your destination. Please add 1 to 5 days, business days for your package to get from this location to that hub. And getting tired. So make sure that you're covered there. The times for IPS, let's see what we got here. It does have door-to-door tracking, which is very, very cool. It is, the times in transit are 1 to 3 weeks plus the transportation for UPS, or 5 to 8 weeks plus the transportation for UPS, okay? So basically, you know, that 1 to 3 weeks, it's a consolidation. So it goes, if it's going to the Philippines and Los Angeles, my guess, especially if it's going to one of the major cities in Los Angeles, my guess is that it's going to get on a ship pretty quick, or on a plane pretty quick. But if it's going to a more remote area, or let's say, I don't know, Spain, maybe they don't have a lot going to Spain. And it might get over as far as Europe and sit in that warehouse until they have enough to fill a truck to get to Spain. And that I understand that hub in Europe is in Poland. So just very interesting stuff. This is exciting, a new carrier. They do have declared value coverage from IPS. If you are currently using an alternate carrier, at this time, to my knowledge, no alternate carrier will cover IPS shipments. That probably will change. But for now, if you use alternate insurance for your other carriers, just know that it will not cover IPS until all those carriers make that change. So it will be declared value coverage from IPS. Okay. Ramp ready labels will print for this, but they print on your report printer. So it will include the customs information and everything all in one, and it prints on your report printer. So not on your thermal 4x6, but all on your report printer. Let's see what else we got here. When you void in PostalMate, it will void the package with IPS, but it will not void the UPS pickup. So let me explain what that is. Most of you have a regular UPS pickup. So they'll just pick it up when they come with the other stuff and take it away. A few of you don't have UPS in your store, and you don't have a regular UPS pickup. When you create an IPS package, it will create a call out to UPS that says, hey, we have a package waiting at this store, it needs picking up. They'll come. If it's late in the day, it probably won't be till the next day, but they'll come to pick that schedule pickup and come and pick that up. No cost to you, okay? So they'll come and pick that up. When you void in PostalMate, it does not void that pickup with UPS. You should, if you're concerned about that, you should talk with IPS about what to do about that. I don't know if you should contact UPS and tell them, hey, don't come. I'd hate for you to do that and then get an IPS package anyway. But I don't think for most of us, I don't think we're going to have like 10 of these a day. I think most of this might get a few in a year. Some of you that are in international communities, though, might be doing this weekly. So just be aware of that. So make sure that you do find out what to do about the UPS coming. And there are limited destinations, again, Europe and the Philippines, and it's really, really excellent coverage in the Philippines. Please read all the documentation that we have for you. We have the information is in the update guide, and then also read all the documentation from IPS. This is new to us, so we don't know everything there is to know about them yet. You know, with UPS, FedEx, DHL, we kind of know them like the back of our hand. Every once in a while, they surprise us with new things. But this is a brand new carrier, so please don't expect everything to work the same way as it does with UPS, FedEx, DHL. There will be some differences. And then you're going to want to mark it up, whatever the prices you get are in PostalMate, you're going to want to mark that up. So make sure that you set your rates on Okay, here's what you've come to for the webinar for, probably. This UPS, it's an integration with Access Point. We are very excited about this opportunity. We did have to delay this just a bit, and let me explain to you why that is. This is where, I'll explain what it is first of all. Right now, when you accept a UPS drop-off, you scan it in PostalMate, hopefully, and then you open up Access Point and you also scan it into the UPS Access Point. This is one scan does it all. So you scan it in PostalMate and PostalMate transfers it to UPS Access Point for you. And you don't have to ever open up UPS Access Point unless you want to, which is lovely, makes your day go so much better. We've wanted this for years and years and years and years. UPS created this ability this year, meaning they created an API. Earlier in the webinar, I talked about how you can have that plug, but if you plug it into the wall and there's no electricity, that appliance is still not going to work. Well, that's where we were with UPS. They didn't have electricity in the wall. They didn't have an API that we could connect to transfer that data over to Access Point. They created it this year. So the delay in getting it in PostalMate was in great part due to the amount of stores we have. There is a concern that it will overwhelm servers, and we don't know if the servers will be able to handle the volume yet. So here's the secret. If you have updated to 12.7.2, the UPS integration is in there, but it's hidden. Okay, it is hidden. Please don't say, Karen said that it was in my PostalMate and I don't see it. It's hidden. You won't be able to see it right now, but it's there. We are in beta testing right now with some stores, and no, you can't be one of them. We've already got them going. They've been running on this for quite a while now, and we're in testing. We started it, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, something like that. But we're trying to get through and make sure there is no hiccups. As soon as we are convinced that every single package transfers over to Access Point successfully, that in beta, and then we get the green light, then we will release this for everybody. And it will, all we have to do is flip a switch. We have a magic switch. It's like having a magic wand, and it will, boom, be available in your PostalMate one morning when you come in. This is, of course, assuming that you open PostalMate every single morning from your desktop, like you should, because you're supposed to close it at night, right? So we have this magic wand for that. We will only wave that magic wand when we are convinced everything is successful in the beta test. Well, I'm hoping very much it will be before it gets heavy for the holidays, before the return packages comes in. It could be, it very well could be in the next couple of weeks. But when we do that and do release that, we will send you an email. So your PostalMate looks like this screen right now on the drop. This is on drop-off settings. I want you to look right under Enable Pickup Report, right in the dead in the middle of the screen. So you select Service UPS, compensation might be there, Department UPS, whatever. And then there's a box that says Enable Pickup Report. Right under that, when it's unhidden, when we wave our magic wand, you will have this new thing come up. And when you check mark that thing right there, then the upper right-hand side will change, and this is where you will do setup. Again, we will email you that information after we wave our magic wand, and you will enter your U number, which is your 9-digit, I think it's 9-digit UPS number for Access Point. You will enter that, and then click Save down at the bottom right. Don't forget to click Save, and then it will be available to you. Now, I will tell you, for the first week, if you can, please, please, please go and check it and make sure that they're transferring over to your Access Point. Don't just trust it. It's brand new to us. And we are trying like holy Hannah to get this out to you prior to your busy season for drop-offs. Having said that, I would love to be able to test this for 2 months before we release it. We don't have time to test it for 2 months. So please help us out by making sure it transfers over. Now, typical things, it could be a firewall you have, it could be an antivirus blocking things. There's things like that that can happen. We're aware of that. We don't anticipate that being an issue, but they could be the ones, you could be the one store that has a strong firewall that won't let it transfer. I'm not worried about that. That doesn't affect the bulk of us. We want to make sure that, and so far in beta, it's pretty successful. We just we won't release it until we're absolutely sure that everything looks as good as it can. So once you do that, you're golden. The information will be, I know you have a lot more questions on this, folks. I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answers on reports on this or what the driver signs. That will be in the email you receive when we wave our magic wand. So when we get that, read all that information carefully, and then you may still have to open Access Point and print at the end of the day. That is an absolute possibility. I don't know, but that will be a part of that email, the information in that email. So we're really excited about this. We know that this is out there, but we have, remember, we have well over 3,000 stores, and that's a lot of UPS packages, So UPS was very concerned about, they had voiced some concern about their servers being able to handle it. So we want to kind of go for, and really important, when we release this, it is absolutely possible that we will not release it to all of you at once. So you may have a friend that gets it and you don't. Please don't be offended. It's nothing personal. We may release this in groups to see how the servers are handling the volume as it increases, okay? So that is a possibility. There, okay. Oh, time activity report. Remember I told you about that? Well, here is the time activity report. So good on me. I actually have it here. This is what it looks like. Let me show you a close-up. This is so you can schedule your employees and what time to come in. If you were open last Christmas, then this would be in your PostalMate. It's in CashMate actually, and it will show you what your sales are by hour. Now, by the way, don't go by dates, go by days. In other words, the third Monday this year and the third Monday last year, not the 18th and the 18th, because it doesn't work that way. It works on days of the week. So make sure that you're comparing apples and apples when you're staffing. I really, really recommend not overstaffing this holiday season. Be thrifty on your staffing, even if you have to work extra hard. I really love having college students or high school students come in for a couple hours in the afternoon after school to help you get ready for that carrier pickup. So last minute pack jobs, taping the packages, getting them stacked, double checking that you have UPS in the UPS pile, FedEx in the FedEx pile, vacuuming, cleaning up, because you're too tired to vacuum and clean up. Trust me on this, you will be too tired to do that. So having some temporary, instead of having 40 hours a week, have somebody come in for 10 hours a week. Have a neighbor, maybe you have, I always used to, this was my favorite thing to do. I had a single mom come in, and she would take her kids, and she would come in the late afternoon, and she would load up her minivan with all my mail packages and take it to the post office. And I'd pay her $10 a day to do that. And that was her Christmas money. She did it for, I think 10, 15 days or something like that. And she got, $150 extra Christmas money. That's what she wanted to do. So whatever, think about things like that. We are going to get to the questions. So did you know, this is a did you know, 60% of the integrity of a box is used in the first shipment, and the carriers don't have to pay a claim on a used box. Now they typically do, but just bear that in mind. And remember, boxes that have hazmat warnings on the outside, things that you should not ship in, you should not ship in. So a motor oil box, a Clorox bleach box, things like that. Your box can have writing. It can have pictures of a baby in a diaper and have Huggies all over it. That's fine. That's not a problem. But just remember, if it ever had something hazmat in it, the carriers are required to believe that the contents of the box contain whatever is written on the outside of the box. And so just, even if you scratch it out, they're still required to do that. Okay. Time for questions. I'm going to take a quick drink, and then if you have questions that you need to ask, go ahead and do that. I'm going to try scrolling through our questions and getting to them. Okay, no alcohol boxes. Good one. Yes, no wine boxes, no beer boxes, things like that. You will all, because all of you clearly registered for the webinar, you will all receive an email later on today that should have a link to watch this webinar at a later time. And then you can catch the bits and pieces you had to miss and have your staff watch it if you would like. Do UPS and FedEx allow us to accept the QR code? No, they do not. That is not something they allow outside of their organization yet. And I am not sure of what your question is. I don't quite understand that one. PostalMate still doesn't recognize Amazon barcodes. Well, you know, that's kind of a barcodes. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about for scanning it in. That's absolutely true. We don't have that information. We have not put that information. We don't keep up on what constitutes an Amazon barcode. So that is an absolute true thing. And so in PostalMate, let me see if I can just go to PostalMate, even though that screen is really pretty. I like it. Let's go to PostalMate. I'm going to open it up here. What he's talking about is he has set up Amazon as a carrier. Now, they're not really a carrier in PostalMate, even though he set it up, but it's for package receiving. So when he receives a package, Amazon comes in and delivers to his mailbox holder, and he types in a number, whatever the number is, and clicks OK. He can select Amazon here, okay? And what he's saying is PostalMate doesn't recognize when it is one, and that is an absolute true statement. We have not programmed it. I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon, but you can always, you should just be able to select Amazon and then click OK. If you want to add Amazon as a carrier, go to Edit, Shipping Carrier, and then you can click Add. Okay, and my Amazon ad looks like this, so you can see what it looks like. I'm sorry, I can't make that bigger. Does the time activity report only work on the main register? Yes, your reports are always on your main registration. Quick answer on shipping ammunition and firearms. No, don't. It's a violation of your FASC or ASO agreement. And in most cases, the actual rules for the carrier may differ from the rules for you as an FASC or ASO, okay? Never international. And I believe that you can ship to a licensed dealer in some circumstances. Please check with your carrier rules on that, and also check if you are further restricted because you are an ASO or FASC. My recommendation to you is the answer is always no on that. The benefit of adding Amazon as a carrier in PostalMate is only if you use the package receiving tool in PostalMate. So you can, when Amazon delivers things to your mailbox holders, that you can accept them and record them. If you don't use package receiving in PostalMate, you don't need to add Amazon as a carrier. Yes, same rule for guns. Did I not say guns? Okay, guns. Okay, wow, questions are coming in fast, guys. I'm trying. Firearms, yeah, I did. Okay, how could I quote IPS rates to the customer? Hey, they're going to show up just like any other carrier here. So let's go quickly. We're going to go to Tools, PostalMate Settings. Carrier Setup. IPS is going to be right here. You're going to enable this and verify. Okay. I don't know if it's going to work for me, but I'm going to, looks like it is. So then I'm going to go down here to set shipping rates. On this one, I'm going to, let's say I base on wholesale. Let's say I do 50%. I'm going to do 55 because, you know, why not? 55% retail over wholesale. Here's international package shipping. See that? Apply and save. Done. Okay. I don't know if there's any add-ons and surcharges. I have not checked, but you would need to check that. Let's see. I don't see them here, so I don't see any surcharges. Let's see about add-ons. Yeah, there's an add-on. Nope, nothing there yet. Okay, so no add-ons or surcharges at this time. Insurance settings, I'd want to go here. International package shipping, 50%. Apply and save. Now, just for kicks and giggles, guys, oops. I'm going to go and do a quick package. And you know, we always have that. The reason IPS is important is we always have that one customer that wants to ship international, and they come in and they see the prices for international and they go, "Are you kidding? No way!" And they walk out. And so this is a way of making money on that customer. Sometimes we used to lose that customer to the post office, but this is a way of you being able to save that customer. Let's go here. And I haven't done this yet, so we're doing this for the first time together. Okay, but I don't think, I haven't put them on a tab yet. See, I didn't follow the instructions. I didn't read it. I just tried to go by what Karen knows. Silly Karen. So follow all the instructions in the guide, guys. Shipping settings, service display. I thought it gave a new tab. I guess I was wrong when I spoke earlier. I thought it gave a new tab, but it doesn't. Here's IPS, so I'm going to put it right there. I'll put it on carrier branded as well. Right there. Click save. There is carrier branded. Close. Now we're going to try to do that again and see if I am able to do it. I'm just going to go all the way here. I'm going to pick. Let's see if I can get something here. Come on, be nice to me. Clearly, I'm not reading something properly on I hate when I do things by the whim instead of how I should do it. All right. Karen has to go read the update guide so she knows how to set this up properly. So I'm bad. I'm very, very bad. Don't do what Karen does. Don't try to wing it. All right, we can all make fun of Karen. Initially, brilliant. One more place. Enable it in, who said that? I just scrolled past it. Enable it in station settings. You're right. Somebody is so smart. One more place to enable it. Sorry about this. I am going to get to questions. I really want to see this. Tools, PostalMate settings, station settings, IPS, save. So we try it one more time real quickly. Okay, and meanwhile, I will get to some other questions. By the way, don't try to ship a package by bypassing all those screens. It's a bad idea. I just want to show a rate here. Nope. I did something wrong. I think maybe I have to have the whole address in there. Okay, again, read the, that was a big fail. Read the update guide, make sure you hit all the buttons. All right, going back to questions. Can PostalMate give us a warning if we're too close to 165 inches length plus girth? You know, it's a good idea. It's not in there now, so it's not going to help you during the holidays. It would be nice to have a warning if it was close, if it was like 160 or more. So but you know, here's the thing, guys. In your Christmas holiday, not every package that walks in is over 160 inches length plus girth. There's only going to be a couple of them if you're lucky. So you'll know when it's really, really big to take extra precautions. So make sure that you tell your staff, if you get that really extraordinarily large box, they should come and tap you on the shoulder and point at it so that you're aware of it and you do what you have to do to make sure the measurements are good. Let's see here. Let's go to something else here. I missed some stuff. I hate that. Can the disclaimer, I don't know what that is. Are we able, why aren't we able to show the expected delivery date for post office? They have it in their interface, right? No, they don't. And you can type in, you can put in the post office delivery dates if you want, but they do not feed us anything for the time in transit. So for example, if you're going, I'm going to pick something fairly local. And you can do that in instructions that are on our website. And I'm just going to get to the rate comparison screen real quickly, but you can see I have 2 to 90 days, not 2. I'm just going to go to mail here. There, I have some things. You can take a snapshot of that if you want to get an idea. But you can enter that, but we do not get that information from the carrier. Indicia does not provide it to us, and the post office does not provide it to us. So we allow you to type it in and have it static. It won't be dynamic. Dynamic means it changes with each destination it's going to. Static means it'll say the same thing whether it's going next door to you or across the country Are paper wrapped packages non-standard containers? Yes. How do I add the padded envelope or soft pack? We addressed this earlier. That padded envelope or soft pack is very important. Make sure that your tier level for indicia is set correct. You should never be unpublished. Carrier setup, USPS, right here. So be on one of these, either RS Postal Associates postal rates or indicia preferred. Both are the same. By the way, whichever you select here does not affect what your cost is. Indicia determines your cost. This just makes sure that PostalMate is aligned with that when you choose the correct one. I think almost everybody in this group is either RS Associates or indicia preferred. I only have, I'm going to say less than 20 stores out of over 3,000 that are not on one of these two that I'm aware of. I could be wrong again. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm going through the list here. Is there any benefit to using harmonized codes for countries that do not require them? It does help in determining the value for customs and duties. So if you have time and want to put them, that's fine. International people sending personal possessions to family members who are traveling. Is this a red flag for personal effects? Yes. International, many countries do not accept used items. So personal effects often are used items. So if I'm traveling to, I don't know, I'm going to pick on Indonesia, and I then want to send some of my clothes to Indonesia, it is possible that Indonesia will not allow that clothing in because it's not brand new. So that is a health and safety issue at that country. They don't know if those clothes are infested with bed bugs. I can assure them they're not. But nevertheless, I would say more than half of the countries in the world do not allow used clothing or used items like that, textile items, into their country. Yeah, one of our customers, I won't say who it is, says he's still fighting duties and taxes with FedEx over $600. So it does happen. FedEx does backbill on occasion. Okay, so this is a good one. Thank you, Nikki. She gets 2 bonus points on this one because she came up with 2 good comments. I just had an issue with FedEx for somebody was sending a $2,500 pair of boots to Italy. UPS wouldn't bill me without me calling her. Yeah, $2,500 is a kicker. First of all, you have to file an EEI if there's a commodity with value of over $2,500. That's not as easy as it sounds. It's not a form that you fill out. It's an actual filing. You have to get in an account. You have to go in. You have to do, and it's all computer. You have to enter the information, and then you have to enter it. Once they successfully accept it, they give you back a confirmation number called an ITN. The ITN number has to be on the shipment. Therefore, you still won't be able to do it in PostalMate. You would have to do it at the carrier website or using the carrier software so that you can enter the ITN. That sounds like an awful lot of trouble to go to. Here's the good news. UPS, FedEx, and DHL, and I believe IPS also, will do this for you. The filing for an EEI will do the filing for you for a small fee. That fee can be anywhere from $12 to as much as $35. You can certainly pass that on and even mark it up, that fee to your customer for having to do that. In this case, these were boots going, $2,500 pair of boots. It was from a celebrity, she said, going to Italy. My guess is that those boots might get quarantined in Italy because Italy doesn't like you to send leather products, and I'm guessing it was leather. Italy does not like leather products, and Italy does not like footwear coming into their country. If you don't know these things and don't know where to check these things, I'm going to give you a place to do that. Let me see if I can come up with that. It's called, and I'm going to bring it over here so you can see it, and you can just Google it. Let me get this really big. USPS Index of Countries and Localities. Bookmark that. This is your best international friend, okay? And watch what happens when we go to Italy. And how I happen to know these things is really, really crazy that I remember some of these stupid things. My kids always say that I remember only stupid things. toys on. I know they have something to do with footwear or shoes. They don't allow. Now I'm not going to be able to find it. They might have changed it. But anyway, things that they do not allow in their country, it's going to be right here. Here's leather goods. So if those boots were made of leather, may not get there. And how would you know that? You know, we can't memorize this for every country, right? So I know there was a footwear one because I did a thing on this, you know, I did a thing on this. So somewhere footwear was, at least at one time, you couldn't send to Italy. Anyway, so this is your best friend. Again, I'll go back so you can get the name of it. It's called, okay, scrolling up, Index of Countries and Localities. I haven't heard this one. DHL now requests printing commercial invoice for documents. Is this a new trend? I don't know of that one. If that is happening to you, it's news to me. The only one that I know always requires a commercial invoice for documents is FedEx. And the reason for that, by the way, is that FedEx envelopes are not restricted to paper items only. That UPS and DHL, you can only have paper contents in there. With FedEx, you could put a t-shirt folded nicely in that envelope. That would be fine. So consequently, you fill out customs forms for FedEx envelopes. Oh, it's DCT DHL, by the way. Remember I said earlier, this is for DHL addresses. It's called DCT.DHL. And that's what it looks like. And you put in the destination country and the city and blah, 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 and it's going to give you information. Thank you for that. I had a couple of people correct me on that. Peak surcharges. Okay, so UPS waived the peak surcharges. FedEx waived some of the peak surcharges. They just recently, just like a week ago or so, 2 weeks ago maybe, clarified one of the peak surcharges, and so we had to make a change in PostalMate. So PostalMate is correct now, but when they give information on what they waive and don't waive, they're not always crystal clear. So sometimes it takes a redo, and we did have to do a redo on a FedEx surcharge. So with UPS, again, I think they've waived all the peak surcharges. FedEx, they have not. Remember, post office has peak surcharges. They are in your PostalMate. We still get a call every single week from a store that says, I set my post office rates and they're not sticking in PostalMate. Number one, that's not possible. It's not possible for your rate to not stick in PostalMate. If you set your rates at 30% or 80% over wholesale, they stick. As long as you click save, it sticks. There's no way it doesn't stick. Not possible. But what they were doing was they were expecting their price to be $16 for an $8 item, and it was being $16.75 because there's a 75-cent peak surcharge that they didn't realize. So that's what that's all about. Will our pickup charge from UPS be increased because of IPS? No. UPS will not charge you one dime more because you have IPS. The update guide has a link for you to set up an account with IPS if you don't have one. Make sure you read that update guide very, very, very thoroughly. Steve says he does not currently scan UPS packages into PostalMate. He just scans them into Access Point. Why would we need to scan them in PostalMate? Well, the primary reason is so you have consistency in your store, so you treat all drop-offs the same. All customers get the exact same receipt, and then you have a record of your drop-offs outside of what the carrier thinks the drop-off ought to be, so that when you get your compensation, you can compare it to what you recorded in PostalMate to see if you were shortchanged. Each of the carriers pays you based on different things. So UPS pays you based on what you entered in Access Point. FedEx Express pays you based on what the express carrier logs in. FedEx Ground pays you based on what the FedEx Ground drivers log in after they have keyed your store information in their clipboard, their electronic clipboard. DHL, we send them the drop-offs, and they pay you based on that. So it's a little different and wonky for each carrier. So that would be the whys. Up to you. You can continue as you are if you want. Sorry, it's the questions are bouncing. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to try to get the most recent ones here. US is the USPS import allowance is basically they were asking, is this countries and localities website that I use better than the carrier website? I'm not going to say it's better, but I am going to say it's a whole lot quicker. These limitations are usually by the country, not by the carrier. Now, the carriers can have more limitations, but if Italy doesn't allow leather goods in, they're not going to allow leather goods in by any carrier. That's just their rule. They're not going to say yes for UPS, but no for FedEx. They don't do that. So, so this is just a super quick way to look up what's not allowed in the country. Always still recommend you go to the carrier website and see if there's anything additional. But if it's, you know, if it's a place that you're fairly comfortable with, this would be the website I would go to. That Steve, that would also be in PostalMate. That would you can look at in PostalMate reports. How do we get a receipt for a UPS drop-off? If you record a drop-off in PostalMate, it can print a receipt. You just have to set up the receipt in PostalMate. Easy peasy. Does the surcharge affect flat rates too? Yes, there is a USPS surcharge and it affects flat rates. In fact, a flat rate envelope is a 75% surcharge. Okay. Can PostalMate transfer the data I enter for the contents and value onto the receipt the customer signs instead of the customer having to handwrite it in to save time? I have to type the info into the system anyways. I'm confused. The customer should never have to handwrite anything. So yes, the contents that you type into PostalMate on that last line, when you're doing an international package, on the final summary page, there's one little line there that has the contents. That line can transfer to the receipt of your customer. Let me show you where the setup is real quickly for that. We'll come back to that as soon as CashMate opens. And scrolling down. Is there a way to make our flat rates a flat amount, or will we need to know the surcharge exactly to make it equal to $15.99? Yeah, you'll have to, and that surcharge is temporary. So in January, it'll just disappear one day. So you would have to change it again. In CashMate, what were we talking about? Oh, I lost it already. Oh, receipt, thank you. Receipt settings. If you want your receipt to have the contents on it, then right here, ship to contents on the receipt. As long as that's check marked, it'll be on the receipt. UPS is correct, Janet. UPS will pick up IPS, European and Filipino packages, both. UPS picks up all IPS packages from your store. And then UPS will send it to either New Jersey, the label will come out either New Jersey or Los Angeles hub. And once it's there, it is consolidated and bound for a ship or a plane for that destination. And for USPS International, in my system, it's not printing the customs form. Contact support because it should. It's something that you don't have set up correctly. And would you suggest giving the index of country and localities to our international shipping customers before bringing their packages in? No, this is something you should look up, not they should look up. And the reason for that is they're paying you to do this service. So if you start telling your customers, I'm not picking on you, really, but no, it's when I say that, we don't want our customers to do anything for themselves. We want them to be solely dependent on us to take care of it. Therefore, they will continue to come back to us. I'm a firm believer that if you teach the customers to use self-service, why do they need you? If you teach them to do things for themselves, why do they need you? And so I'm a firm believer in them relying heavily on you for this stuff. It's Karen's philosophy. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm not on this one, but I'm willing to be wrong. Did it do? Okay, I hope you guys are learning a lot. We've already gone 20 minutes over. I'm happy to continue. I'm going to go back through and try to catch up on a few of the questions. Some of you have had to drop off. We were almost 500 stores. We have close to 1,000 that signed up for this webinar. So this will go out. If you didn't hear me earlier, you will get a link to this in your email. And it's the email you registered for this webinar for. And if that's a different email than you typically use, it'll be in the one that, because the email or the webinar program actually sends that email out to you. Janet, you're clever. I'm not that clever. Okay. All right, I think I've gotten through most of them. Guys, if there's a question that I didn't answer that you want me to answer, please just email it to support@pcsynergy.com. I will monitor the support for the next 15 minutes or so and see if anything comes in that needs my attention. Usually our support team can handle it, but make sure that you review the information in this update guide. I know some of you never read an update guide. This is one you really should. And be watching your emails for announcements on the release of the general release or semi-general release, if we do it in batches, of the UPS integration to access point for tracking numbers for drop-offs. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If I don't talk to you beforehand, and I don't think I will, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas or whatever holidays or season you choose to celebrate this coming December with you and your family. I appreciate everything you do for me. Your patronage and watching these webinars is unbelievable, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. Love you all. Take care. Look forward to seeing you in webinars next year. Bye-bye, everybody.